There's this instinctive rule we all have, right? We tend to think that bigger means more dangerous.
It's just intuitive. A big storm, a big animal.
Exactly. A lion is scarier than a house cat. And so you apply that to biology and you think, okay, the huge organs, the lungs, the liver, that's where the really big threats are. But I've been digging through these medical lectures you sent over on head and neck anatomy, and, well, there's this one little corner of the body where that logic is just completely backwards.
You found the paradox. Biology loves a paradox. And today we're looking at a really strange one. Malignant salivary gland tumors.
Right.
In this world, the smaller the gland, the higher the danger.
The inverse rule, that's what we're calling it.
Like the clinical reality, yeah.
So today's mission is to decode that. We're doing a deep dive into these cancers that are, they're rare, less than 5% head and neck cancers, but they're unbelievably complex. We're talking about tumors that act like chameleons, some that look like Swiss cheese, and this is the part that really got me. Tumors that can literally travel invisibly inside your nerves.
It really is a biological detective story. Because it's not just one thing. The WHO classifies, something like 22 different varieties.
Right.
And the difference between them, between a harmless lump and something truly aggressive, it can be microscopic.
So we're gonna break down the big two, right? Mucoepidermoid carcinoma and adenoid cystic carcinoma. But before we get to the villains, we need to set the scene, the landscape of risk.
Exactly. To understand the risk, you have to understand the geography.
So let's start with the big one, the parotid gland.
The biggest player, it sits right in front of your ear, kind of wraps around your jaw. It's the largest salivary gland.
And because it's big, it's where most of the tumors show up, about 80% of them.
Right, but here's the paradox.
This is the inverse rule in action. If you find a lump there in that big gland, the odds are actually pretty good.
They are. About 80% of tumors in the parotid are benign, non-cancerous, so only about 20% are malignant.
Big gland, smaller problem, usually.
Usually.
Okay, but then we move down a bit to the submandibular gland.
It's smaller, tucked right under your jaw, and as the size shrinks, the risk just it creeps up. In the submandibular, the malignancy rate jumps to about 40%.
So you've already doubled your risk.
You've doubled it.
Right.
But the real danger zone, the minefield, really is the tiny stuff. The sublingual glands under the tongue, and especially the thousands of microscopic minor glands.
The ones scattered all over your palate and lips that you don't even think about.
Exactly. If a tumor pops up in one of those tiny glands, the stats just flip on their head. It's a 90% chance that it's malignant.
Wow, 90%.
That's the inverse rule. The smaller the real estate, the nastier the tenant. So a tiny little bump on the roof of your mouth is statistically much more worrisome than a big lump on your cheek.
Which is terrifying, because I feel like most people would just ignore that tiny bump.
Of course, you'd think, oh, I bit my tongue, or it's just a canker sore.
And that's the trap.
That's the clinical trap. That assumption is exactly what these tumors can rely on.
So why? What triggers these things? The sources had the usual suspects, but some really strange ones too.
Well, the big one historically is radiation. We have really grim but clear data from atomic bomb survivors.
A direct link.
A very strong link. But the scary part is the latency, the delay.
It's not immediate.
No, not at all. These cancers peaked 15, 20 years after the exposure. It's like a ticking clock in your DNA. And that's not just bombs, it's also therapeutic radiation from decades ago.
And then the list got weirdly specific. I saw things like rubber manufacturing, plumbing, woodworking.
It sounds random, but it comes down to chronic irritation from carcinogens.
Yeah.
Wood dust, silica, nickel, things you breathe in that settle in that area.
The one that really stood out, though, was the aspergillus connection.
Oh, yeah. That's a very specific occupational hazard for people who work with livestock feed.
Animal feed. Seriously.
Yes. The feed can get contaminated with a fungus, Aspergillus aphid. And this fungus produces something called aflatoxins.
Which are bad.
Incredibly potent natural poisons. And the data suggests a link if you're breathing that in day after day.
Wow. And then there were viruses mentioned, too. Epstein-Barr and CMV.
Right. There's some evidence they might play a role. It's almost never one single thing. It's more like a perfect storm of triggers.
But there was a little bit of good news, right? Something about diet.
Yes, finally. It seems like there's an inverse relationship with diets rich in polyunsaturated fatty acids. So healthy fats might actually lower your risk.
Eat your avocados. Okay, before we get to the mechanics, there was one demographic point that felt like a classic med school exam question.
The gender split.
Yeah. The sources say most salivary tumors have a female preponderance, more common in women. But there's one big exception.
Warthin's tumor.
Warthin's.
Right.
It's the second most common benign tumor.
Yeah.
And unlike everything else, it's way more common in males. Historically, anyway.
Because of smoking. Exactly. It's strongly linked to smoking. And men used to smoke a lot more. So, smoking guy with a lump in the cheek, you think Warthin's.
Okay, so we know where they happen and who's at risk. But how does a healthy gland just turn? The notes talked about this shift in thinking, from a multicellular theory to a reserve cell theory.
This is the key to understanding why there are so many different types.
So what was the old theory?
The multicellular theory was very literal. It said, look, you have duct cells and you have Acini cells. If a tumor looks like a duct cell, it must have come from a broken duct cell.
Makes sense. Like begets like...
Straightforward, but probably wrong. The modern idea, the reserve cell theory, is that these tumors all start from the same place.
From stem cells.
Basically, yes, from intercalated duct reserve cells. They're pluripotent cells just sitting there, ready to become any type of cell the gland needs.
They're blank slates.
Exactly. And the cancer starts when one of those blank slates gets confused on its way to becoming a mature cell. The kind of tumor you get just depends on how it gets confused.
So it's the same starting point, but they take different bad exits off the highway.
Perfect analogy. And here's why that matters. The earlier in that journey the error happens, the more undifferentiated and the more aggressive the tumor is.
An error in the foundation is worse than an error in the paint job.
Precisely. That gives you the whole spectrum from low grade to high grade.
Okay, let's meet the villains, the big two. First up is mucoepidermoid carcinoma, MEC.
The chameleon.
Why the chameleon?
Well, for one, it's a literal mix of 3 different cell types, mucous cells, epidermoid cells, and intermediate cells. But the chameleon part is really about how it behaves.
And this is the most common one, period.
Yes. Most common malignant salivary gland tumor in adults and kids. If you're going to see one, odds are it's this. It loves the parotid gland and the palate.
Let's talk about the deception. The notes called it mucocell mimicry.
This is so important. Imagine you see a patient with a small, bluish, soft bump on the roof of their mouth. Looks like a little blister.
I think I burned my mouth on pizza or something.
Exactly. Or a dentist might think it's a mucocil, which is just a harmless blocked duct. It's soft, painless, cystic. You might just watch it.
But it's actually cancer.
If it's a low-grade mucoepidermoid carcinoma, yes. It mimics a benign cyst perfectly. It's slow-growing, it doesn't hurt, it fools you.
And that's just the low-grade version.
The high-grade version is a totally different animal. It drops the disguise. It's not cystic anymore. It's solid sheets of aggressive cells. It causes necrosis. It invades nerves. It grows fast.
Is there a way to be sure? A genetic fingerprint.
We do have one. A specific gene fusion. CRTC1-MEML2.
That's a mouthful.
It is, but if you biopsy that innocent little cyst and find that fusion, the mask is off. You know you're dealing with MEC.
Okay, so that's a chameleon. Now, the second one, this is the one that really gave me the creeps reading about it. Adenoid cystic carcinoma, ACC.
Ah, yes.
The silent invader.
The sources called it relentless.
That is the perfect word. It's slow, but it's relentless. Historically, it was called a cylindroma.
And under a microscope, it looks bizarre, like Swiss cheese. It's the classic description, the cribriform pattern. The pathologist sees these islands of tumor cells that are just punched through with these little empty holes.
Like Tom and Jerry cheese.
Exactly.
Okay.
But we use a mnemonic to grade it, TCS.
TCS.
Tubular, cribriform, and solid. Tubular is tube-like, cribriform is the cheese, but solid is the danger zone.
That sounds bad.
It's the worst. If it's a solid pattern, no cheese holes, just sheets of cells. That's a grade 3 tumor. Very aggressive, poor prognosis.
But the structure isn't even the scariest part. It's superpower. Neurotropism.
This is the defining feature of ACC. Neurotropism means nerve loving. Most tumors just push nerves out of the way. ACC doesn't do that.
What does it do?
It invades the perineurium, the sheath around the nerve, and it travels inside it.
It uses the nerve like a highway.
A protected highway, to travel far away from the main tumor.
What does that mean for the patient? What do they feel?
This is the crucial warning sign. The patient often feels pain or burning or numbness early, often way before you can see or feel a lump.
So pain without a lump is the red flag.
The biggest red flag there is, a numb chin, a burning tongue with no visible cause. You have to think about ACC tracking up a nerve.
Which leads to what you call the surgical nightmare. Skip lesions.
Right. The surgeon cuts out the tumor, they look at the nerve end, and it looks clean. But the cancer might have skipped a few centimeters and be hiding further up the nerve, totally invisible.
Like a subway train going express.
Exactly. And you can't see it. That's why the recurrence rate is so high and why it has this strange survival curve.
What do you mean?
The 5-year survival rate for ACC is actually pretty decent, maybe 60-75%, so people think they're cured. But the 10 or 15-year survival rate, it drops classically, down to 30 or 50%.
Because it just keeps coming back.
Because it's relentless. It comes back 10 years later in the nerves, or it shows up in the lungs or bones. It's a marathon runner, not a sprinter.
And a genetic marker for this one.
Yep, MYB and FIB, found in about 60 to 70% of cases.
Okay, so we have our two villains. How do we find them and fight them? Diagnosis and treatment.
Well, investigation starts with imaging. But knowing what we know about nerve invasion, what imaging do you think is best?
Got to be MRI, right? You need to see the soft tissue, see the nerves.
MRI is the gold standard. A CT scan just can't see that perineural spread.
And then you stick a needle in it. FNAC.
Fine needle aspiration, yeah, to get some cells and see what we're dealing with.
And the treatment. It's surgery, but it sounds complicated.
In the parotid gland, it comes with a massive problem, the facial nerve dilemma.
Right, the nerve that lets you smile and blink runs straight through the gland.
Straight through the middle. So the surgeon is operating a minefield. If it's a low-grade tumor, we can usually peel the gland off the nerve and save the smile.
But if it's high grade, if it's that ACC wrapped around the nerve.
Or if the patient's face is already paralyzed before surgery, then you have to make a hard call. You have to sacrifice the nerve to get all the cancer.
Which means permanent facial paralysis.
It does. It's a devastating choice. You're trading the ability to express emotion for a chance at a cure.
That's brutal. What about the lymph nodes in the neck?
If we can see them on the scan, they come out. But even if the neck looks clear, if the tumor is big or high grade, we often do an elective neck dissection anyway.
Better safe than sorry.
You clear the nodes just in case.
So, after surgery, chemo and radiation.
Radiation, yes. It's very common post-op, especially for high-grade tumors. But the source had a fascinating specific point about ACC.
The neutron therapy.
Yes, conventional radiation uses photons. But for ACC, which is notoriously resistant, there's data showing that neutron radiotherapy is way more effective.
Holy more.
The local control rates, stopping it from coming back in that spot, can be as high as 75% with neutrons. That's a huge deal for this specific tumor.
That feels like a critical piece of information.
Yeah.
Chemo.
Here's the sobering part. These tumors are, by and large, very unresponsive to chemotherapy.
Really?
It has a very limited, mostly palliative role. For when the cancer has already spread everywhere, the responses are usually short-lived.
So it's really down to the scalpel and the radiation beam.
For now, yes.
Okay, let's bring this all together. The inverse rule, the chameleon, the silent invader. What's the bottom line for someone listening?
It really comes down to vigilance about subtle signs.
So if you have a lump, even a small painless one,
Get it checked. Don't assume it's nothing. Remember the chameleon that looks like a harmless cyst.
and if you don't have a lump,
Then listen to your nerves. Persistent numbness, burning, tingling in your face, your jaw, your tongue, and there's no obvious dental cause. Push for that MRI.
that pain without a mass.
That's the signature of the invader. Catching it before it gets too far up, that nerve is everything.
You know, I'm stuck on one last thing. That reserve cell theory.
The stem cells.
Yeah, it's kind of haunting. That all these different cancers, the ones that look like cheese, the ones that look like blisters, they all start from the exact same mistake in the exact same kind of cell.
It's a reminder of just how fragile that whole process of cellular differentiation is. One wrong turn, one bad gene fusion, and a cell that was supposed to help you digest your lunch becomes this relentless machine working against you.
A heavy thought, but a fascinating one. That's all the time we have for this deep dive.
Stay curious and listen to your body.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.